down and,
Is this how we did this before? Just like this one. Is that how we did it before?
Council suggested just the first piece on the warrant articles. I had, we included the full verbiage because I wanted you to see it versus just authorizing the Board of Selectmen to, I wanted you to see that actually.
are you talking about the home rule petition?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Why don't we go down through A through Q and review the articles. Is that what we intended on doing at this point?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, do we need to discuss A at this point? I don't think so.
Okay.
The budget amendment including small capital, 2009, Greg?
Without the detail, I needed the detail for the next week.
Okay. So, that's, and hopefully some of that might come from some adjustments to some other budget line items that we approved at April town meeting. Okay, and the establishing the fuel and utilities reserve fund, transferring $150,000, and then again, we don't know where all that money's coming from. I mean, that could come from free cash that we think we'll have, but then we get the snow and ice issue, which is the next one. So right now, B, C, and D, we do not have a complete financial plan for. And we are looking for budget adjustments in the FY 2009 budget and other sources of funds that we may have overlooked or have come to our attention. So we're dealing, this is our current budget,
FY09.
FY 09. You have anything you want to add to that at this point?
Maybe between now and October, just on Article, well, B here, budget amendments. You have proposed specific line items to talk about. We may, again, after our discussion, want to adjust some other line items within the budget. If you're going to target line items, then you're limited to those line items. If we don't target the line items, keep it general, then between now and October town meeting, we have the latitude of proposing what we want or what we need to.
Oh, what you're saying
What
is,
I'm saying is
in
we should be
terms
less
of,
specific in relation to it. We could have in our description, you know, because what it is, you talk about adequate notice
you
to
know,
the general public. And generally how the moderator would rule is you're limited to what's on the sheet of paper and what was mailed to people's households.
it buys us 2 more weeks.
I like that.
You know, so that, you know, in your description, you might talk about some of the specifics, not being all-inclusive. All right?
Versus within the body of the article.
Right. Okay, because anything above and beyond that would be outside the
I
four
think
corners
that's a
of
good
adequate
suggestion.
notification, so.
We need that flexibility.
Right.
Well, it gives us 2 more weeks to flip the money.
Okay?
Yeah.
So,
I like that.
Anything else, Steve, on?
that was just the first one I read.
Finance Committee's on board with the 150 number, I believe, right?
Just on E, are we calling this the capital improvement stabilization fund, or we call it debt stabilization fund? Debt service stabilization fund. This is on E.
I think the verbiage for the approval under Article 5, 2007.
Was the
town
capital
meeting was
improvement sta-
capital stabilization.
Okay.
We'll go back and double check.
Okay.
And then the capital improvement program, we've gone through. The action items of that are to tweak the priorities and to have the finance director take a look at the cost of debt going out and what we might decide to set as a bond limit for this, which might add some additional items to the priority list or even subtract them. Mr. Jones? Correct. That's a good point, yeah. I thought we didn't want them to do that, and yet it somehow,
It's become a habit.
right, we had asked.
Became a practice.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, initially, it wasn't going to be, and they entered into a 3-year.
Right, we
lease
made such a
agreement.
lot of noise over it, I'm surprised that it got biased last year.
Recall them being upfront about what their intentions were.
Yeah, I'm sure they were, I just,
I think that was the concern, was the fact that I think they were very forthright about what they wanted.
They were last year.
the point is, we could have borrowed the money. They still could have got what they wanted, although that would pay for it over 6 years instead of 3. But that's a good point, that's another,
My guess is, this is gonna be an ongoing process for them too, so that maybe with our financial planning team, we can broach the subject with them as far as how we would anticipate them doing
well,
going forward.
the other thing, the only other good thing about that is
Every
we
third
don't
year
need to
borrow.
fund that $60,000 in October, but we will have to fund it as a change to, we'll have again another two-piece town meeting, right, where we fund it then. So at least, not that it's gonna help, because I don't know,
No,
we're
it
not
could make
gonna
it worse.
generate any more free cash.
It'd make it worse and we'd have no place to go, to go get it.
Well, it's something we have to deal with, right? So we've got, I think Mr. Jones is right, we ought to be looking for the $60K for the lease, because we can't bond that. And so we got $60K, $150, and $340, $177, of which, and, Mr. Jones? Yeah, right. Well, I've come to the conclusion that there isn't gonna be any. I don't know how you, where that comes from. If someone's got a better idea, I'd like to hear it.
We'll pursue Mr. Delaney's proposal, non-traditional funding sources for some of the capital.
No, I wasn't concerned about the capital at this point.
No, but it'll free up free cash. Instead of paying for some of those things out of free cash, we'll be able to fund it through non-traditional funding sources.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't know how you get there. Establish a utility reserve fund, right? $150,000. That's not gonna come out of some trust fund.
No, the trust fund items that we were talking about
Snow
are
and
pretty
ice
are pretty far
isn't gonna
down our
come out of
priority
it.
list. Or your
And
priority
maybe
list.
maybe the lease might come out of some money.
Withdraw my comment.
You know,
I didn't mean to beat you up. I'm just saying
Yeah, some of the things like for the libraries and stuff like that, those were pretty far down the priority list, so that the chances of getting funded were, at this point, were slim on that. So it really isn't saving us anything, other than it's getting a project which is down the list done sooner.
well, in case of window sills, it may save us some money in the long
Right,
haul by
which is fine.
fixing it sooner rather than later, right?
Right.
All right, transfer of the capital stabilization fund, we know what that is about. And that's one area where, if need be, and we'll have to discuss it, you put all of it into the 1.7 into the capital stabilization fund, which is what I'd like to do. Or do you put less than that in and use, the rest of it becomes free cash?
We'll see.
I'm just saying,
Right.
that's the only place I think you can increase free cash.
Right.
Unless someone has comes up with something else, I'd like to hear it. FY 2009 capital program, as I said, we just gone through that. The G has been scratched. Create and fund other post-employment benefits. We're gonna put $1 in that fund, is that what we're gonna do, Greg? Prior year's bills, we'll take up a collection for prior year's bills.
Charge them for parking.
Charge $1 admission and I guess one covers.
Trench safety regulations, if there's any cost to the town for doing that, it's gonna be turned into some form of a fee to pay for it.
We have a memo, right?